Hi there, welcome back to the channel. In today's edition of Mo's Garage in Kathy's Kitchen, we're going to be building a rocket, an Estes rocket, basically as kind of a demonstration for a class that I'll be teaching. So a little bit easier to kind of just do a quick little video show how it's done versus kind of try to explain it. So this is a pretty simple rocket. It took me about 45 minutes to build it. This is kind of shows an example of one being built. I use glue. So we will go ahead and kind of just go through the kit, go through the construction process, and then hopefully by the end of it, we will have a rocket that looks a little bit like this. And this hopefully will give us some skills so we can build rockets that look a little bit like this. So awesome, let's get going. So for today's little demonstration, we're going to need a few tools. We're going to be using a hot glue gun to glue the fins on. The instructions actually say to use wood glue, but it takes a long time to set up. And trust me, it's not going to go well in a short class environment. So I did this as wood glue. It took a long time, not great. So we're going to use the hot glue gun instead. We'll need a pair of scissors. We have a dowel here. This will be actually used to basically apply glue inside the actual rocket. Pencil. We have a square. We're going to be using this to kind of mark the lines on our tube for the fins. We have some wood glue, and my favorite, super glue. Be careful when you use this, guys and girls. This stuff will definitely glue your fingers together. So, and last but not least, we'll have a little sandpaper. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually just open up the kit. We can see what's inside the kit, and then kind of go over kind of first steps, how to do it. The toughest part of the whole entire process is gluing the fins on. And really two things: A, gluing the fins on straight, and B, having the fins stay on the rocket long while you're kind of holding long enough for the actual glue to set. So as part of the kit, it's fairly basic, not a whole lot to it. We have the rocket tube, and then we have kind of a set of instructions. Some cool decals we can put on later on. And then we have the fins. On this particular kit, the fins are actually made out of paper, which is great. We'd actually, even though it says to use a knife, we don't need to. We can just pop these out fairly easily. Just kind of be careful as you're doing it. And so we don't have to kind of mess around with X-Acto knives or box cutters, which is never a good thing. So really, the first step in this kit really is to basically pop these fins out. Now, really what we want to do before we get too carried away with anything is basically put the fins on the rockets, because that's going to be the process that takes the longest. So let's go ahead and do that. So first step, what we have to do is we have to decide what rocket fin combo we're going to build. So this is the initial one that I built. It has 3 fins that are swept forward. I then went ahead just for a test, put this one together. This has 5 fins on it, as you can see, in a different configuration. And so there is basically a whole plethora of different combinations we can do in these fins. Keep in mind, the more fins you decide to go with, the longer it's going to take and the more complicated it's going to take. I would recommend most likely 3 or 4 fins tops, but I just wanted to let you know there are some options on how to do that. So before we get too carried away and do anything, what we'll have to do is we'll grab our fins, decide what we're going to build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show how to lay up this to put the fins on and glue a fin on, and then I will continue with this one right here. So to do that, we're going to assume we're going to build let's have a look on this one. We will do a 4-bladed fin on this one. And so if we look at the instructions, it actually gives us some direction on how to do that. So, and we have some templates on these instructions down here that kind of show the configurations for the different kinds of fins. So hopefully you can see that on the camera. If not, we will definitely zoom in here once we start laying it out. So before we can do this, we need to basically grab our fins, whatever fins we're going to be using. So in this case, we decided we're going to use 4 fins. And we want to just kind of use a little bit of sandpaper to get all the little ridges off. The cardboard has some little burrs on it for where it was in the actual matrix over here. So we'll have a piece of sandpaper and just kind of get them all lined up and come in here and just give it a good scuff there to get those little ridges off so they're nice and smooth. Okay, so now my wonderful camera person is going to kind of zoom in here so we can start seeing how we're going to lay this out. So once you decide how many fins you're going to go, you are going to lay your tube of your rocket down on the template. And it gets a little tricky because you got to get it just right. And then what you end up doing is you grab a pencil and you mark the arrowheads. And sometimes what you have to do is you just have to actually rotate this along and have them line up correctly. And a little patience here goes a long ways, because if you as you can guess, if you mess this up, your fins will be in the wrong direction. And so now I should have 4 marked. It's going to be really hard to tell. Then the last but not least, it says LL here. This is the little tube that goes on the side, which allows the rocket to go on the launcher. So that we need to make sure that we mark that also. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. I'm going to get my lines to mark up again. And we'll mark the tube. And we'll make this one bigger. Okay, good deal. So now we have all these markings in. So next step then is to use this guy right here to get nice straight lines on here. So, okay, awesome. Okay, so now that we have these marked, we'll use our square here to draw the line so we can line up the fins on the tube. The trick to this is we'll adjust the square so it's a little bit longer than the length of the part of the fin that we're going to glue. So when we put it up over here, you will notice it's just a smidge longer than it needs to be. So what we're going to do then is we're going to grab the tube, we're going to grab a mark. Remember, the thick mark is where our little guide goes. And we're going to basically line it up here with the ruler portion. So you can see that that mark is lined up with the ruler person right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hold on to this lightly. And we'll grab our pencil and do that. And in theory, there it is. Now, as I said before, what we'll want to do is we want to make sure that that line is sticking a little bit past, because what we'll do is we'll come over here, we'll glue it, and when we put the bead of hot glue on there, it'll be hard for us to look at this line. So our next step is to basically grab one of these fins and glue it on here. Okay, so this part here is the trickiest part of the whole entire build. And the trickiest part is to get the fins on the rocket straight and in the right location. So step number 1, and the other thing is that this the hot glue will dry pretty quickly, so you don't have a whole lot of time to mess with it. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to start with hot glue and lay a bead, and a nice thick one, I mean decent one over here over where you want it. And then we'll grab our fin and we'll bring it down on the line. And in the meantime, we want to make sure that it's straight up and down too. So we'll see it's on the line and it's hopefully straight up and down. Now, you will want to hold this in place for a minute or so until it sets nice before you attempt the other ones. Now, the other thing I would do, and maybe we jump the gun here just a little bit, is you need to go ahead and mark all the lines at once. I obviously just did the one, but obviously it's going to be a little bit tougher now to get the rest of the lines on. So get them all up at once, and then that way, when it gets time to put the fins on, it'll be a little easier. So do that, repeat as many times as you have fins for, and then we'll go on to the next step. Awesome. So the one thing I forgot to mention is that we want to make sure that we draw the line for the launch tube all the way to the end of it. So I believe the instructions say that it's 2 inches. It starts 2 inches past from the bottom. So what we just did is we just basically kind of adjusted the square here, so we have 2 inches plus the length of the tube, the launch tube. Put this on there, extended the line, and that's what we have now over here. So next step is I'll go ahead and mark on the tube where it ends. Only reason I'm doing this is so we know where to stop with the hot glue gun. So we'll mark it there. We'll grab the hot glue gun. And we'll basically put a bead on it right here. Oh, nope, we're not. We're actually going to put a bead up here. And that's it. Going to be kind of quick about it, just because it goes for so long. It's on the line. Kind of important we get that kind of in the right location. That way the thing launches straight from the platform. So that's that. I'm going to scrape some of this glue off the bottom here. It hasn't set yet. Oops. Okay, so now we have everything glued up to the rocket body. So we can get moving on with the rest of the program here. So next step is attaching the little cap over here to the nose cone. Again, we're going to be using super glue, so be very careful. This stuff is super and it's glue, and it will literally glue your fingers together. So we're going to put some on the cap right here. And then once we got a little bit on there, we'll grab the nose cone and we'll put it in there. We'll hold it for a little bit, and then what we'll do is we'll put it aside and move on. So let that dry. Put it on a little plastic bag. And then our next step is to go ahead and put the little engine backstop into the rocket body. So what we need to do for that is, if you follow the instructions, it'll actually show you that what we want to do is this is actually, it's going to be used to push this inside the rocket body. So we're going to leave a mark out here as to where we want to stop. So, and according to the instructions, that mark needs to be 1/4 of an inch in. So with our handy dandy ruler here, we can come over here and measure off 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to come over here. There's 1/4 of an inch based on the ruler. Nice dark mark. And then what we want to do is we want to grab our cool little dowel thing here that we have. And we want to mark it the same. But we also want to kind of mark it with the width of the rocket motor stop. And so what we'll do is we will mark it the same, so we know that this is pretty much it right here. Now, you may ask why we're doing this. Well, it's because we need to get glue inside this body, and it's going to be kind of difficult to get it up there. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and most likely put glue just on this mark up here, and we'll get it all the way in. Here's the thing, and we'll kind of just spread it around, and we'll most likely do a couple of goes of that. So we've got our little wood glue over here. See how this will open? Yep, it does. And we decided we need the glue to be up in this little ring right here. So I'm just going to go and just get, assuming it'll come out of the thing, because the thing is actually blocked. Of course it is. There it is. And we're just basically going to come in here and put some glue on the tip. Oops. Twirl it around for a little bit. And it's in this direction. So we want the rocket end. Go in here. And here it is. So we'll kind of spread it around. And I'm going to do it again just for good measure. Put some more glue on here. Okay, now the good news is if you get glue where you don't want it, guess what? When we push this thing up in there, it's going to scrape it all back. to where it needs to go. So next step is we put the little rockets stop, the rocket engine stop in here. And then we use the tube with our mark on the outside to push it all the way in. So if you look at that, so we're going to go over here, push it in, maybe. There it goes. And then that'll go in all the way. Now that it's in, up to the mark. Once you hit the mark, grab this, pull it out. We're done. Don't need that anymore. And that gets us to our next step, which is getting the parachute sorted. Awesome. So next step is getting the, in this case it's a streamer. This one does not have a parachute. Kind of sorted. And we'll need to cut out this little template that's on the front page of the instructions, which is right here. Shows 3, 2, 1. So we'll cut this out, and that gets folded and glued inside the rocket. So we'll do that real quick. So now that we have our little template done, we can just look at the instructions. Basically what needs to happen is we grab our little template, grab our rubber band over here, and then we want to basically glue this rubber band onto the template. So we'll grab our wood glue, just use a little bit of it. So we have glued the rubber band over to the number 2 spot here. And then per the instructions, we're going to grab the number 1 spot and try to fold it over. Like that. So we should have plenty of glue there to glue that over. And then we grab one more time and we'll do it onto the number 3 spot. So we'll put some glue on here. And then we'll grab this whole thing from this and we'll fold it at the line. Like that. Then for our next trick is we're going to glue that inside of the nose part of the rocket. And if we look at the instructions suggest that we are at least an inch away from the top of the rocket. So what I'm going to do, grab my handy dandy little stick here one more time. And I'm going to basically figure out where, kind of up over here, we want this to be an inch clear from the rocket. So that's an inch right here. So that allows us to make sure that we know exactly where to put the glue. Stick it in here until we see the mark. And then kind of spread it a little bit. Now that that's done, we can now grab our friend, the elastic band. And we will want to kind of stick it in there. And again, it's about an inch. And I'm going to cheat. Here's our marker. So we can just kind of push him right around there somewhere. So now that that's done, that's what attaches the kind of the quasi parachute here to the base of the rocket. So next step is we want to go ahead and grab the nose, and hopefully by now the super glue has all been set. I'm going to just grab a little rag real quick here, make sure there's no super glue on here that's going to stick my fingers to this. And we'll just want to come in here, grab this, and tie a knot. And as an FY, with super glue, less is more. So it's better to be a little stingy with it. There's that. I'm going to cut the extra off. Okay, so now that this is done, then the next trick is to basically attach the streamer to the cord here. So what we will need is a piece of clear tape. So, okay, let's go grab some tape and we'll be right back. So next step is to put the wadding in. We'll talk about that in a sec, but we're actually going to jump a step ahead. That way the glue can dry inside the tube a little bit better. And so this particular rocket is small enough to where instead of having a parachute, it has a streamer. So we'll get the streamer kind of set up correctly for insertion into the tube. So, and basically what it is we'll grab a piece of clear tape. And we don't need a big piece. And we stick it to the end. And then 2 inches from here, we're going to go ahead and put that on. So, and ballparkish most likely is not completely out of the question, but we'll use this. So 2 inches is right around over here. So we'll grab, this is a 2-inch mark, we'll kind of do right here. Put the tape on the right side. Glue it on this way. And that's that. And then what they want you to do is they want you to basically go ahead and fold this up. And I think you can just fold it up the way it was folded up before. And then the trick is to basically roll that sucker up and stick it in the tube. Now, while this still has some glue drying in it, so we're not going to mess with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of fast forward here a little bit to the rocket I built previously. So first things first, we've got to attach the wadding. Now what the wadding is basically these sheet of almost like toilet paper-like material. And we stuff it inside the rocket body. Because what ends up happening is that when we put the rocket motor in here, it is solid propellant, and the discharge is going basically pointing, the vector is pointing this direction. Now, right towards the end, and it runs out of fuel, there's actually a small amount of propellant that actually the discharge points this way. And what that discharge does, it creates a little kind of a poof of kind of smoke in here that pushes the wadding out. And when the wadding gets pushed out, guess what else comes out? The streamer and the nose. So the rocket, as it's coming down from altitude, is going to be spinning around this little streamer. Otherwise, it would basically come down as a lawn dart and basically pretty much at the same speed as it launched. And it would not be good if A, on the rocket when it lands, B, on somebody if it hits them. So this has 2 to 3 sheets. This is official wadding material from Estes. They actually have like little perforations. So we're going to grab this 1, 2, 3. So that's basically what we'll need to stuff inside the rocket. And so what we'll do, we'll just make life easy. We'll just do it like this at a go. And literally all you do is grab it, you scrunch it, shove it in there, and shove it in there. Then going back to this that we talked about earlier, you kind of get it to fold back up, and we're just going to literally have it be the same shape it was out of the box. And then once that's all nicely folded up, you come over here and you roll it in. And once it's rolled in, this kind of all gets stuffed back in here. There's a rubber band and a parachute, or the streamer in this case. Keep going, keep pushing, and the nose cone goes in. And voila, you have a fully completed and assembled rocket. So Okay, so good news is we have our model rocket ready and it's ready to be launched. All we need to now do is put the engine in, put it on a launcher, and take it out to the park and launch it. So it'll be good times. Obviously, it'll be even better times if we can spend some time decorating them, putting the decals on, spray painting them. So that makes it a little bit more fun. So hopefully you find this informative in your project. And if you have any questions, you know what to ask. Thank you for watching this video. Hit subscribe and give us a big like down below. Thanks for watching.